In a world increasingly defined by geopolitical tensions, the relationship between the United States and China continues to be a focal point for diplomats and strategists alike. As President Donald Trump embarks on a second term, there are heightened concerns about how his administration's policies will shape the delicate balance of power in Asia and beyond. A recent development, the proposed RedNote initiative, has sparked discussions about its potential to mend the fraying ties between these two superpowers. The backdrop to this situation is complex, marked by a series of diplomatic maneuvers and economic strategies that reflect a broader struggle for influence. In a testimony before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Melanie Hart, senior director of the Global China Hub, emphasized the importance of countering what she termed Beijing's malign influence. She argued that the U.S. must engage robustly in global governance competition.
Highlighting the stakes involved, "We are engaged in a global governance competition that will define which system prevails, ours or Beijing's," she stated.
Trump's administration has adopted a more hawkish stance towards China, revealing a willingness to challenge long-standing diplomatic norms. This is evident in proposed tariffs on technology imports and a re-evaluation of the U.S.-Taiwan relationship, which many analysts fear could destabilize the Asia-Pacific region. Taiwan, a critical player in the global semiconductor market, is caught in this geopolitical crossfire, with the U.S. seeking to assert its influence while navigating potential fallout from its actions. As India and China work to normalize their relations following a turbulent few years, the U.S. seeks to leverage India's strategic position in the Indo-Pacific.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's past camaraderie with Trump was evident during the first term. Yet the current administration's focus on tariffs and immigration could complicate this relationship.
With India enjoying a trade surplus with the U.S., any move towards reciprocal trade policies could ignite tensions. The complexities of U.S. China relations are further heightened by economic coercion tactics employed by Beijing, which Hart argued are crucial to counter. The U.S. must empower its diplomatic efforts to combat such maneuvers effectively. The recent establishment of a counter-coercion unit within the State Department suggests a recognition of the need for a more cohesive strategy to support nations that find themselves under pressure from China. As the RedNote initiative unfolds, it remains to be seen whether it will succeed in fostering cooperation or merely serve as a band-aid over deeper-seated issues.
The stakes are high,
not only for the U.S. and China but for the global order at large.
The potential for conflict looms, particularly if the U.S. does not effectively counteract China's influence in international institutions and economic arenas.
In conclusion, as both nations navigate this complex landscape, the success of initiatives like RedNote will depend on the U.S.'s ability to present a united front against Beijing's strategic maneuvers. The coming months will be pivotal in determining whether diplomatic overtures can mend fences or whether tensions will escalate further, reshaping the geopolitical landscape for years to come. The world watches closely as these developments unfold, with the potential for significant ramifications not just for the U.S. and China but for global stability as a whole. As President Donald Trump prepares to re-enter the political arena with a potential second term,
his administration is poised to implement significant tariffs on key trading partners, Canada, Mexico, and China. Set to take effect on February 1, these tariffs could reshape the U.S. economy, reignite inflation, and spark retaliatory measures from affected nations.
With over half of U.S. imports coming from these three countries, the stakes are high for consumers and businesses alike. The proposed tariffs include a 25% tax on all goods imported from Canada and Mexico, aimed at curbing issues like illegal immigration and drug trafficking.
Meanwhile, a 10% tariff on imports from China is contingent on Beijing's cooperation in addressing the smuggling of fentanyl precursor chemicals.
The implications of these tariffs extend beyond mere economics. They are reflective of a broader strategy to assert U.S. dominance in trade negotiations.
Economists are already sounding alarms about the potential fallout. Ryan Sweet, chief U.S. economist for Oxford Economics,
predicts that the tariffs could elevate core inflation from a healthy 2.8% in December to around 3% by year-end, disrupting the gradual recovery from previous inflationary pressures stemming from the pandemic.
Some institutions like Deutsche Bank foresee even steeper rises, estimating an increase of more than a percentage point.
The tariffs are expected to lower U.S. economic growth by 1.2 percentage points this year, with consumer spending likely to take a hit as higher costs force households to tighten their belts. The auto industry appears particularly vulnerable as it heavily relies on cross-border supply chains with Mexico and Canada. Trump's tariffs would raise production costs significantly, potentially adding $3,000 to the price of new vehicles. The energy sector may also face challenges, with gas prices in the Midwest expected to spike due to Canada and Mexico being major suppliers of crude oil to U.S. refineries. While the U.S. holds considerable leverage in these negotiations, Canada and Mexico are not without their own responses.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has already indicated that Canada would retaliate forcefully if the tariffs are enacted.
This could result in a tit-for-tat scenario reminiscent of the trade war that characterized Trump's first term, during which Canada and Mexico imposed their tariffs on U.S. goods affecting sectors such as agriculture and manufacturing.
China, although less reliant on trade with the U.S., is preparing for a renewed confrontation.
Chinese businesses are bracing for impacts similar to those felt during the previous administration's trade measures, with many firms already relocating operations to Southeast Asian countries to mitigate tariff burdens.
Notably, major global brands like Nike and Adidas have shifted production, further reshaping the landscape of international trade as firms seek to circumvent punitive tariffs. In response to the anticipated tariffs, China has also begun to modernize its economic statecraft, adopting more proactive measures to counter U.S. sanctions. Recent actions include adding companies to its unreliable entities list and tightening controls over critical minerals, essential components for technology production, thereby signaling a shift towards more substantive economic measures rather than mere symbolic gestures. The unfolding events suggest that Trump's proposed tariffs could not only disrupt established trade flows but also lead to a more profound re-evaluation of economic relationships among the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and China. As these countries navigate the complexities of trade negotiations, the potential for retaliatory measures looms large, setting the stage for a new chapter in international economic relations. Looking ahead, the consequences of these tariffs will likely reverberate through various sectors of the economy, influencing consumer prices, business operations, and international relations. Should the tensions escalate, the global marketplace may witness a reconfiguration of supply chains as countries adjust to the new trade realities. Ultimately, the actions taken in the coming weeks will determine the trajectory of U.S. trade policy and its economic impact on both domestic and global fronts. In an era defined by rapid military advancements and geopolitical tensions, reports reveal that China is embarking on an ambitious project that could reshape the global military landscape. According to a recent article from the Financial Times, China is constructing a military command center that dwarfs the Pentagon, projected to be at least 10 times larger. This extensive complex, dubbed Beijing Military City, is being developed on a sprawling 1,500-acre site located just southwest of Beijing, raising concerns about its implications for regional stability and security. The construction, which began in mid-2024, is part of a broader strategy as China prepares to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the People's Liberation Army (PLA) in 2027. Intelligence experts suggest the facility could serve as a doomsday bunker for Chinese leadership in the event of a nuclear conflict, enhancing Beijing's nuclear warfighting capabilities. The scale of the project has attracted attention, with satellite imagery revealing significant infrastructure development, including underground facilities connected by tunnels. Observers estimate that over 100 cranes are currently operating at the site, which is designed to provide secure shelter for top officials during potential crises. This development comes amid heightened tensions between China and Taiwan, with President Xi Jinping's administration increasingly vocal about its intention to reunify with the self-governing island, potentially through force. As the PLA continues to modernize and expand its nuclear capabilities, U.S. officials have noted that China may possess around 1,500 nuclear warheads by 2035, up from an estimated 500 in early 2024.
The Pentagon has underscored these developments in its recent reports, which highlight China's aggressive military expansion and modernization efforts. The implications of this massive military buildup are multifaceted. As Rita Sharma, a defense and foreign affairs expert, points out, the new command center is expected to enhance China's ability to withstand U.S. military capabilities, particularly against advanced weaponry like bunker buster munitions. Chinese leaders may judge that the new facility will enable greater security against U.S. military threats, she notes. This sentiment reflects a broader trend in which China is investing heavily in its military infrastructure to establish itself as a dominant regional power.
In parallel,
North American military forces have been actively monitoring Russian military activities, particularly in the Arctic. On January 30, 2025, NORAD reported that U.S. Air Force F-35s and Royal Canadian Air Force CF-18s conducted combat air patrols in response to Russian military flights. This military vigilance underscores the increasing complexity of global military dynamics, with both China and Russia asserting their influence in various regions. As the geopolitical landscape continues to evolve, experts warn that the military ambitions of both China and Russia could lead to increased tensions with the United States and its allies. The construction of China's super Pentagon is emblematic of a broader strategy to enhance its military posture and deter perceived threats, especially from the U.S. and its partners in the Asia-Pacific region.
Looking ahead, the international community will need to navigate these developments with care.
As China approaches its military centenary in 2027 and aims for a world-class military by 2049, the stakes are high. The balance of power in Asia and beyond may hinge on how these nations respond to each other's military posturing, with diplomacy and strategic alliances playing crucial roles in averting potential conflicts. As tensions rise, the implications of China's military expansion will remain a focal point of international security discussions in the years to come.